Intervals again today, 6 times 1k, followed by 4 times 150 metres. I'm taking a certain approach with these 1 kilometre repeats. The approach is to run these intervals at my best pace for 40 minutes. In some training theories, it's been termed the critical velocity. There's a few ways you can calculate this pace. One is to go out and do a 40-minute time trial. Another is to do a race that goes out to be about 40 minutes. So if that's your 10k pace, 10k race, I tend to do a 5 kilometre time trial and then plug it into the Macmillan running calculator and have a look at the predicted race paces, and I'll work out my 40-minute best from there. So you get that pace and you aim to hold it pretty closely. Aim to be consistent over the reps. One thing this approach really does, it helps with you understanding pacing and stops the fly and die approach. One problem we have with doing this session weekly or on any cycle is, and it's a nice problem to have, is that our fitness improves. So what do we do with that pace? Do we adjust or do we hold it? So you could do a new time trial every few weeks, and that's not a bad idea, or a new race. That's fine too. But I've got a slightly different approach that I prefer to take, and that requires a bit more explaining.
So my approach for the intervals is I do a time trial, 5 kilometres, work out what the equivalent pace for my best 40 minutes is. Then I run a couple of sessions at that pace. The first time I did it, I found the 6th interval quite hard to hold. The heart rate shot up there, the breathing rate shot up on that last interval. The rest of it was pretty good and felt at the right intensity. Second week, the last one was harder than the other intervals, but I felt pretty comfortable with it. It all felt at the right speed. After that, the session actually felt too easy. From there, I needed to make the choice. Do I do another time trial? Do I just run faster? Do I check the heart rates? What I like to do, on the next interval session, I run it on feel. Aim to feel the pace, to feel the right intensity. I ignore heart rate. I ignore the pacing. In fact, I have heart rate and pace not displayed on my watch at the time, and then I analyse it afterwards to see what happens. This is what I did for this run. So lap number 1 is the warm-up. Took about 18 minutes to warm up. So let's get down and look at each interval. So first one, 4:17 per K, hitting a heart rate of 156. And on heart rate, how do we know what we're aiming for? Well, given that they're intervals and it's not a steady state session in terms that your heart rate will sit the same the whole time, it may get close to it, but never quite there, because the session should be above your anaerobic threshold. So what are we aiming for? Well, I like to look at the maximum heart rate achieved in each interval. You might not achieve it in the first or second, but if you're hitting around 90% of your heart rate max, on average as your highest heart rate across all the intervals, then you're in the right area. My top heart rate there, a little bit below for the first interval, which is probably okay. 2 minutes recovery. Second, 4:19, 157. Third, 4:20, so slightly slower. And heart rate still climbing a little bit, 158. Kilometre number 4, 4:18 per K, with the heart rate still at 158. Then 4:22, heart rate still climbing, and 161. We'll have a note Little bit more elevation or hill on this one, though there's no big hills on this course. It's all pretty flat. And then last kilometre repeat, 4:17, hitting a heart rate of 161. So if we look at the heart rates, I hit 156, 157, 158, 158, 161, 161. That tells me I was in the right area. This looks like the type of graph that you want to see for your heart rate profile for intervals like this. So starting and climbing throughout, not a massively steep curve, but constant. And you'll notice from each interval, it just gets up that little bit. And on feel, the pacing felt right. I didn't feel like I was working like crazy right on the limit, but I was definitely working hard. Then after the 6 times 1 kilometres, another 2 minutes jog recovery, and I'll finish with 4 times 150 metres.
So the idea is to make sure that I'm running significantly faster than the pace I held in the 1 kilometre repeats. So if I'm holding 4:20 for the Ks, then the speed will probably be down to 3:30 per kilometre.
150 metres, the intervals are so short you can't even rely on heart rate. So right, let's make it easy for you to do this. What do we do for these intervals? Well, first up, we need a warm up. Look at least 15 minutes, maybe 20, 25. Start super easy and just gradually increase the speed. You can do a couple of strides if you want to beforehand. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you build up the pace, the body feels ready to go. Warm-ups don't need to be complicated. Then we have the pace. For the 1 kilometre repeats, you want to aim for your 40-minute best pace that you can hold. Run about 6 times 1 kilometre efforts. In between, take 2 minutes, easy jog recovery. I recommend you start off aiming to hit those exact paces, see how it feels, see what your heart rate does, and make any slight adjustments to that. Over time, you'll improve, and you can either do another test to get a new 40-minute pace or your critical velocity, or you can just speed up the intervals. The trick though is not to run these intervals so fast at the start that you crash and burn and struggle to get through the last couple as though you're digging crazy deep. This session isn't about that. This session is meant to be hard, but it's meant to be repeatable, allow you to develop over a long period of time. We're not trying to bring you to a quick peak for a race that's in just a couple of weeks ahead. This is for that constant improvement that you get week in, week out. After that, you can finish off with 4 times 150 metres, 4 times 100 metres, 200 metres, just something where you run quick, but you don't run too far and you're not digging deep. You just want to get that feeling, get your legs turning over nice and quick, getting that little bit of extra power, ensuring that your technique is there for some fast running after you've been running hard for some time. Cool down. If I was to pick any session that was going to get me faster consistently over a year, over months, this would be it. Let me know if you're going to try it. Keep on running.